For today's video, I wanted to cover a topic, or rather a question that has often come to me in real life, in my socials, DMs. Should you wear your luxury to work? Now, I think it is worth prefacing at this stage how bizarre it is that it's something that you should even consider around, I guess, optics of what you want to wear and what you've spent your money on. That there are so many people in real life or online that care so much about the way that you spend your money and you live your life. It's not directly impacting others. I mean, it's just bizarre what offends people these days, but that aside, I know the current climate is not really conducive to having people sharing or showing off perhaps to other people their luxury items. Some may consider it insensitive, gaudy, just downright stupid. That all being said, I know this will matter to some people more than others, and I want to just cover this in a dedicated video on my channel because obviously, as many of you will be aware, I am a luxury creator, a luxury and lifestyle creator. This is something that is, I suppose, central to my channel. It does seem bizarre then to have to consider, well, should I dial back what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about, frankly, what I've spent my hard-earned money on for the sake of other people and optics and things like that. And so I wanted to give both sides of the debate, if you will, in this video, share my personal thoughts, and ultimately I suppose you can start a little bit of a conversation in the comments, because I do think as somebody who's passionate about luxury, as I'm sure you are, that this is something that may even be on your minds day to day. I suppose what I mean with it like this, flashy logos emblazoned perhaps on your items, or very identifiable silhouettes and designs that people can see from far away, that they've seen through culture. And I suppose it's worth me elaborating a little bit on why there is, I suppose, that stigma around luxury goods. Obviously, in today's political, social, economic kind of climate, it is not something that everybody can afford, and not something that people appreciate when they see other people wearing or having these items. It often makes people uncomfortable at the best of times, jealous and resentful at the worst of times. And those kind of feelings are not ones that people want to project or feel, I suppose, self-conscious about. And it's super interesting as well that this kind of luxury resentment and jealousy or judgment is something that I see kind of happening with women towards other women, and it's just not something that you see projected by other men, or something that you see being criticized of men. And what I mean is that, men have always been associated with power and wealth and prestige, right? They've always had the flashy cars, big homes, luxury yachts and timepieces and things like that, and that is really, I suppose, respectable. And something that people want to emulate. I notice when it comes to a woman, on the other hand, that it's often other women that are jealous of them for having designer goods. And I've noticed personally that women do not comment on a man's luxury goods. In fact, they find it probably very sexy and aspirational, again, that he is able to acquire those goods, and they don't find it flashy or gaudy at all. Whereas in converse, I've had it in my personal life, as I'm sure some of you may resonate as well, when it's women, it is often other women that are the most cruel. And that is just something that I think is even biological as well, not to get into that whole kind of rabbit hole on this channel right about now. I suppose maybe it's more like masculine trait to have all of this perceived power and wealth and the stuff generated, or that they might assume that their significant other bought those items. But I do think that there is something to be said about these items being societal markers, women competing for those, and for the men that give them the resources, or the fact that they have no resources and they see other women having them, it creates jealousy and resentment and potentially competition. I've covered those topics a little bit on my other videos on the channel, so you can go check those out. We've seen all the celebrities and influencers. We roughly know all the price tags. I know a lot of women especially do. It's just something that I've observed. They know exactly what model, perhaps what year, who designed it, and what price it was. Women like nice trinkets, okay? It's not a stereotype for nothing. A lot of us do. There are exceptions, but there's still a rule. That is why I wanted to cover in today's video how you should go about dealing with this particular conundrum. And I guess it's worth elaborating a lot more on the reasons why you shouldn't wear luxury, because that is the overwhelming, I suppose, opinion at the moment. And at least when it comes to the workplace, I know it is a very sensitive environment. You go there to do a very specific set of responsibilities. I personally do not believe in work mixing with play. I think that is just a terrible idea. Maybe I'll cover it in another video one day, but I personally believe you bring a different version of yourself to work than you do in your personal life because you're there to do a very specific set of jobs. I just have very specific boundaries because as soon as something crosses that threshold and somebody's not happy, that's where things go belly up. So it's bad enough that people get the judgment of wearing luxury out and about in their social lives and their daily lives, but then it goes up another notch when it comes to work because that is a whole new set of people and responsibilities and implications on your career as well, especially if you're a career woman. I do direct this video specifically towards women because other women are more the people who are perpetrators of this luxury judgment. Obviously, I'm not trying to exclude men here, but I notice it's a lot of women on women, and that is why this video is being made, because I think it's often harder to deal with women than it is men. Men are very direct, women are very sneaky. This is just my personal experiences. You're entitled to your own opinion. If this offends you, that's not my problem. I'm just saying it how it is, okay? Let's get into the biggest factors of why people are concerned about wearing their luxury to work. And the first one, I suppose, is that it may affect your promotion or your performance. And this is a really funny, I don't know if this is the word, or really kind of ironic or stupid, because work should not have anything to do with what you're wearing and what you buy. Like, they are very separate things. Now, I know wearing something to work is potentially displaying and advertising those things, but it should be your performance and the quality of your outputs that matter more than what you are wearing. However, that being said, I'm not blind to the fact that there will be subconscious biases. That is just instinctive and primal within us to have made judgments on people. And that is just something, I suppose, that is very visceral. When you look at somebody and they're wearing maybe head to toe in luxury, you're going to make a certain set of judgments about people. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's how it is. Okay, we all have eyes, people. That being said, though, I know that, some people don't necessarily have the thick skin or want the drama of having that potentially impact your performance or perception at work, because I don't know why this is. I personally had this in my experience as well. When you wear luxury to work, especially if you wear gaudy, they will assume that you're probably being paid too much or have too much money to spend. It might leave an impression that you don't need the funds, or maybe for those jealous women who maybe are in charge of the promotions process, they might be so salty that they might try and block you. I've had so many comments from kind of middle management, peer level to me, that have made such snarky comments that I know that they were on a vendetta to get me because they were jealous or whatever. And it's not like they're not making the same amount of money or that they couldn't channel that extra funds into those items. They just decided not to for one reason or another, and that's not my fault. But I know that it is something that does exist. I think that's just a symptom of, I suppose, society, that instead of allowing people to be aspirational and promoting that behavior and lifestyle, that people instead resort to jealousy and vindictive ways to try and get back at you. So I know that is one of the biggest reasons why people choose not to wear, I suppose, the more flashier items, because blocking your promotions and your progression in your career is something that, you can't really get back. Once an impression has been made about you, it's very hard to try and backtrack that. And that's, a reason why I don't wear super flashy items, at least not anymore. When I was a little bit younger, perhaps I was a bit more juvenile, perhaps I didn't realize, but nowadays I want to be known for my work. So I wear very, very plain, like Steve Jobs style, if you will, because it's also just easier on me in the mornings, having to get ready and things like that. It's just a lot simpler than to constantly be churning out something new on the runway. And that's just not appropriate also from a work perspective. You're there to work, you're not there to have a fashion show. So from that perspective, I think it is a very valid point to make. And, obviously it has a side effect of not affecting your future trajectory at your company, especially with people who are very, very salty or perhaps competing with you for a promotion or scared that you will take their role. And I suppose it's worth then talking about the next point, which is around general workplace gossip, envy, jealousy. You don't want people talking behind your back. Obviously, with promotions, that is just something that is once every quarter or once every year perhaps, but you don't want people to have those feelings, resentment throughout the years. It can be a very toxic lifestyle and working environment. And even if you have a thick skin, you still have those little voices in your head, right, that make you second guess yourself, even though you shouldn't. And you just shouldn't have to have those things in your mind, because it is just a waste of your time and energy to think about people that frankly don't matter. It's a sad reality that we have to be this way, but again, it's something very primal and instinctive within us, so I can't exactly ding people for having feelings of resentment or whatnot, especially if you've got very flashy items and you're screaming, look at me, with all of the things that you're wearing. So now on to another reason why people often don't wear their luxury to work or don't want to, is that you might actually become not just a target of jealousy, but a target of theft. You can actually prove yourself to be quite a flight risk if you are going head to toe on the way to work or at work, depending on your workplace. You know, there may be people who take it so far as to then potentially want to steal your items. And even on the way to work, you could also be followed and whatnot. I'm not trying to scare people here, but this is the reality of the world that we live in. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat things here on this channel. And especially when it gets darker earlier, especially in those winter months, then it's obviously something that, especially if you're walking alone as a woman, that you want to consider. And you just don't want to bring that kind of drama to work as well and make yourself an additional target. Onto another reason, then this one is more about the practicality of certain items. So sometimes the items that you want to wear to work, most of the time actually, it should be about practicality and functionality than the fashion and the style of it all. Because ultimately you are there to do a job without being distracted. And I personally think if you're putting on, again, a fashion show for everybody, you're not actually thinking about the job at hand. I think just getting items that are then serving a more practical function, especially, you know, if it's rainy weather, windy weather, you want items that are going to be windproof, water resistant, those kind of things, and hard wearing, and ultimately going to last you a long time through washes and stuff, than things that are just dry clean or flashy or very specific textures like sequins or beads or whatnot. It's just not practical to wear those things at work, as lovely as they may be. That's for your weekends or for your evening plans and time off. And if you are going to work, you should have items that allow you to do your job to the best of your ability, as opposed to having a fashion show. And now on to the final reason, and this one is a big one for myself as well, is that they don't want to get their beautiful and precious items damaged or potentially ruined. And this could be through just general wear and tear or something very clumsy at work, or, you know, it's through the elements, through the wind and the rain and whatnot. You just never know what could happen. And ultimately, I think there's something to be said about keeping those items special. I know that others will say, no, I want to get as much cost per wear or wear as out of those items, but I also believe in something being luxury and something being special. And you know, it starts to lose that appeal potentially if you overuse something. So those are all of the reasons why you shouldn't wear your luxury. I'm not gonna lie, they all have merit. They are all super valid, and I've definitely considered those myself. I definitely feel myself gravitating towards more lower to medium tier brands that are high quality, but don't have flashy logos at all. I do wear more plainer things with the odd accessories. So it could be my watch, it could be a nice pair of shoes. And just dressing really well, I think, gives you a luxury kind of vibe without those flashy logos on it. However, that being said, there will always be like the odd luxury item that I do bring in, because ultimately I do think items should be worn. And I'm going to now pivot into the reasons why you should wear your luxury items, because I have made videos here on this channel about why you should wear them. You can wear the odd item if it's tasteful. And I don't think if, you know, you've bought something that is, you know, not super flashy, not gaudy, something that's just really high quality that you really love and doesn't have like loads of logos and things on there, I actually don't think there should be anything stopping you from wearing that. And I know a lot of people will probably second guess themselves at this stage around talking themselves out of wearing something, but I did want to just make a nod to the reasons why you should wear the odd luxury item. I suppose the biggest one is that, you know, you've worked so hard to buy that luxury item, or, you know, if you've been lucky, you've been gifted that luxury item. So why not wear it if it's appropriate? Why not enjoy that item? We only have so much time on this earth to enjoy the things that we have. And I personally think, you know, if you have like the odd item, that is okay. I don't think I need to spell it out. I think everybody knows and has the common sense around what is and isn't gaudy or asking for it. To be honest, and this kind of segues into my next reason why you should wear your luxury goods, who cares about what other people think? The opinions of others are so trivial, and, you know, yes, you may be thought about every so often perhaps, but isn't that more a reflection of that individual and how sad and lonely and pathetic, frankly, their life is if they constantly think about other people than their own lives and their own problems and their own priorities? I mean, I just think it's so sad that people expend so much of their personal energy on other people when their life decisions don't actually affect them in any way. Often I think people think and overemphasize other people's opinions of them more than they actually really do think about them. And what I mean by this is that, you know, you may cross someone's minds for like a few seconds, but that's pretty much it. not on everyone's minds as much as you think you are. You may think the world revolves around you, but it doesn't. And so yes, people might have a snarky comment here and there, but that's all it's going to be. And hopefully if they have a fulfilling life, they will just crack on, because if their life revolves around you, then they're like obsessed with you and perhaps stalker, and that is a whole set of other problems in itself that needs to be dealt with. Ultimately, people's opinions should not matter to you. You've got your own things going on, and frankly, who cares about what other people think? As long as you are doing right by yourself and by others and you're not harming anyone, then why does it matter what people think about your item? And you shouldn't live your life in fear of what other people think, otherwise you'll never make any progress in your life. Then on to another reason, and this one is a big one that I've kind of alluded to earlier as well, and is that your performance at work should have zero to do with what you are wearing. And I would honestly question, and if you ever get into an altercation at work where this is a reason, that is a discrimination, and that is something that can probably be filed by human resources or something like that. Once for work, I was on an away trip, and it was like a social evening event before we had to do work the next day. I brought out a bag. It was like, I think it was my Prada bag. Yeah, so everything else was plain, it was just that bag. And the woman actually actively sought me out on that and started trying to, call me out on buying that, even though it was a social event, it was a weekend, we'd gone there for a weekend, and to try and make me feel bad for it. And I don't feel bad to this day, and neither should you. And that's their problem. I know it's a delicate balance, so, definitely it's not as easy as it seems to say it, but definitely one thing that I've learned to have in the back of my head is, okay, I will do so much as to present myself in a professional manner, but if it is in a social capacity, or if it's an appropriate capacity by which my item is unstated, why shouldn't I be able to wear it? If you're actively seeking it out and you're pointing it out, that's not my problem. And the final reason, and it's a good way of living life, is who cares what people think about how you spend your money? You only live once. Ultimately, a job is a job. If people are bullying you at work for something trivial, is that the right job for you ultimately? Is that the environment for you if it's toxic like that? Luxury goods is just one aspect of luxury. There are so many other luxuries, even in the kind of coffees that you buy, or the lunches that you get is a form of luxury, and people often just see luxury goods and they attack that because it's the most obvious and the most visceral, but they're forgetting actually other people are projecting lots of other luxuries like the fancy travels and places to eat and whatnot. If you're doing the right things by yourself but other people are reacting in a bad way, then that is ultimately their problem. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful for many of you out there. Let me know which side of the fence that you sit on. Ultimately, I do think there is merit to the points that I mentioned about why people refrain from wearing luxury at work. I do agree, and it's something that I definitely am preoccupied with, and I make sure that I don't overstep that fine balance, because I also find it a bit vulgar if people are wearing head-to-toe luxury. But I think also there is something to be said around your money, your rules, and if you do it in the right way, why is it anyone else's business how you dress and what you spend your money on? But I will leave this video here. Thank you as always for watching.